Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of August 28th, 2025. Sorry, it's late, everybody. Going forward, it won't be. We're just going to have to accept the fact that sometimes Rocky or myself might have to fly solo if one or the other is not available, because having it come out almost a week late, yeah, it's just like, what's the point, right? So anyway, going forward, they will be on time. And I'm sure you guys would rather have that than and have us fly solo rather than having it come out a week late. So all that being said, super early when we're recording this, so apologize for the low energy. I'm not a morning person. But I thought it was a really strong week of DC books, 14 titles. I had an extremely hard time ranking them because honestly, just about everything was worthy of being in my top five. Now, it is a Wonder Woman week, so that's not true of Rocky, I'm sure. But overall, I thought the week was really strong. What did you think of the week overall, Rocky?
I actually thought it wasn't one of my stronger weeks, to be honest. It was very easy for me to choose my top five. I thought most of them were a little bit mediocre to me, but again, it's a great problem to have with DC. They were all, um, uh, well, let me just put it this way: the ones that were really stronger were much stronger in my view, and it was easy for me choosing my top five. So it'll be interesting to see what your top five were, see how different we are this week or for the week of
Yeah,
August
I didn't.
20th.
Yeah, I didn't even get Rocky's rankings. So I'm gonna be surprised right along with you guys. I won't have any idea what's in his top five or not. So anyway, we'll kick it off with Absolute Batman number 11, which got actually, sorry, that's not correct. We're kicking off with Justice League Red number 1, written by Saladin Ahmed. Clayton Henry is the artist, Arif Prianto on colors, Lucas Catoni and Ryan Christie on letters. And that's a first for me. I've never seen two I've never seen a lettering duty split between two people before on a book. So this came into my top 3. Now, Saladin Ahmed, as far as I know, I don't even think he's done any like anthology work for DC or what have you. As far as I know, this is his first DC work. He's done a ton of stuff over at Marvel, probably mostly known for his run on Miles Morales, which he was on before the current run. And now, like, currently, he's writing Daredevil. So, not a big surprise to see his name come over. And he's done, creator own stuff with Boom and what have you. But yeah, it wasn't a huge surprise to see his name just because he's such a veteran guy and he's been around so long. But yeah, this came in my top 3. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Clayton Henry. I love his art. So, what about you, Rocky? Where does this rank for you?
Well, it didn't make my top five, but it did rank around. I think it's between 6 and 7 right now. I'm still going through it, but uh, I thought it was I thought it was pretty decent. I thought it's really nice to see Power Girl and Simon Baez, a different Green Lantern, Deadman, Cyborg. We see characters that we don't normally see and get a little bit of love. And Red Tornado is, I think, one of the most unexplored, and he's a character with so much potential. He's a character that, quite frankly, given the timeliness of AI in our culture and our tech culture and what have you, I think there's so many interesting storylines that can be used with Red Tornado, along, of course, with Cyborg and what have you, and that's even implemented in the storyline here, where Red Tornado, through his various algorithms, he runs various calculations, and he determines that no matter what happens, it looks like the future, because of what happened and how because of events surrounding the formation of this new Justice League Unlimited, that ultimately humanity is going to be going to be destroyed, and he's got some theories as to how to prevent that. And and for some reasons, he's convinced that he doesn't want to let the Trinity know, and he handpicks very specifically the heroes, Power Girl, Simon Baez, Deadman, Cyborg, that who he wants to utilize to use their resources to help hopefully prevent the scenario from coming through. I'm not sure if the plot completely makes sense to me. I'm not sure I even agree with Red Tornado. Red Tornado's logic for excluding most of the members of the league. Even Power Girl and the Green Lantern sort of question that. But I like that. I like the fact that it sort of makes us think, and it makes us think about ramifications, algorithms. How much should we rely on technology? How much is true? What is our fate? What we make it? I mean, there's some tropes here with respect to the plot, but the character work is really good. And I thought it was for an opening issue. I'm not even sure how many issues this is, but I think it worked. I quite enjoyed it. What about your thoughts? What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm gonna go with what the story tells me. Now, I mean, you're not wrong in that um, there's a possibility that Red Tornado could be wrong, but he acknowledges that he's going by, he says he's run thousands of threat simulations powered by unprecedented precise algorithms. I mean, based on the current Watchtower satellite that was built, by some of the most brilliant and intelligent minds in the DCU, and Red Tornado, among them. And he's using, this predictive software to say, hey, every single one of these simulations that I've run has unstable superhumans. We know that it hasn't completely been resolved, the situation with absolute power, with people that got powers after the events that Amanda Waller instigated, or powers mixed up. But every simulation leads to the Earth's collapse. Like people die, unless a very few people take action and prevent that from happening. And those people, it's not among those people to be, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. Every time he tells them in the simulations, because they tend to be more reactive, is the way that he puts it, that that leads to the Earth's collapse again. So I like that he says it's been a lonely endeavor before he's invited Power Girl and Simon Boz to help him, because he doesn't want to be keeping this secret, but he doesn't really have a choice. So it's a really interesting position that he's put in. And then obviously, Simon and Power Girl, they're not the A-list. We know that. And they're used to taking orders from, the Trinity, as it were. And so they're in a different position, in an unfamiliar position. So their own doubts make a lot of sense as well. And they're like, gosh, can we really trust Red Tornado and what have you? And it leans back into some of the earliest Red Tornado stories when he started being fleshed out as a character. The fact that he's not human, can you trust him? He's just a robot, that sort of thing. But you're not wrong in saying that, where we are in society right now with technology, and that the distrust some people have for technology. But at the end of the day, technology is black or white, and it's a tool, and it's how you're using it. It's a little different for Red Tornado because he has sentience, obviously, but if he is making a mistake, and he shouldn't be keeping this from the rest of the league, or he's even in some way deceiving Simon Baz and Power Girl to get them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, because that's the only path to saving the Earth. It's like, well, does the ends justify the means? And and should we trust Red Tornado? Those are all interesting questions. But I trust Red Tornado. I've always liked him as a character. I like the characterization that Saladin Ahmed is giving him, along with Simon Boz and Power Girl. I mean, this feels like Power Girl to me, as opposed to the beginning of her most recent run, where she felt a little out of character when they were trying to sort of differentiate her from Supergirl in a way.
Yeah.
And then we also have the last page reveal of Black Adam, who, if I have to choose between these four characters, who am I gonna trust? Black Adam's at the bottom of the list. I don't trust that guy at all.
Yeah.
So in terms of the story, it's interesting enough, and I like the inherent setup of it, because it's going to lead to seeing characters that we don't see as much, right? Like starting with these three. Yes, Power Girl most recently had the highest profile because she had her own series for those reasons I was talking about. But man, I couldn't tell you the last time Simon Boz had a prominent role. Maybe way back during Robert Venditti's Green Lantern run, maybe. Red Tornado, I cannot remember at all.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that Justice League run where
One Star Squad, wasn't it One Star Squadron? Didn't wasn't he in that?
he was in that, but I wouldn't say he had a prominent role.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember maybe that Justice League run. I can't even remember who wrote it, but the one with the those Michael Turner covers, maybe.
yeah,
Because I know there's a very famous cover of Red Tornado where there's a bunch of different Red Tornadoes on the cover of one of those issues. Um, but yeah, it seems like maybe we're going to get some more obscure characters as well, and I'm all about that, right? Like DC taking advantage of the fact that they have such a wide cast of characters and using some. And Mark Waid's been doing a good job in Justice League Unlimited, but that title's so tied into what's going on in the main continuity that he can squeeze one person in here or there, but they don't really have a prominent role, right? Like Firestorm's a great example. He's shown up a couple times in Justice League Unlimited, but I don't have any sense of who he is as a character right now because he shows up and he helps, but again, he's not like a star of the book. So having something like this where we can get some characters that we don't get to see on a regular basis and they really get the spotlight, I'm all for that. And like I said earlier, the Clayton Henry art, it's so good. It's so good. Like the guy continues to get better. Like there's just fantastic images of Red Tornado here. There's collage pages. There's panels where the action is, breaking the panel borders. Just the color work is fantastic. I just thought this is kind of what DC is about when I read this. So, and it's a great cover. Um, you know, Cyborg probably being the person I needed to see the least because he obviously has a pretty big role in Titans. So I wonder about him being on the team. Maybe for story reasons, plot reasons, they need him, or maybe it's just a way for DC to say, well, we don't want to go without anybody as a hook, right? Like maybe Cyborg fans will pick this up. We also see Red Arrow and Dead Man as Rocky mentioned, and I love Dead Man as well. He's another one that's fun to see. He doesn't show up a lot.
hmm
So yeah,
So how
I
did you
really
rank
enjoyed
this?
this.
How did you rank this?
I said it was in my top three.
Oh, okay. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I thought it was fantastic. So, all right, up next. So this is interesting. There's 14 books this week. I rank this at number 11. It comes in last. You're like, wait
Oh,
a
wow.
second. How can it come in last? So there's 14 books, and you rank this at 11. I have ties, people. I have ties. That's how hard it was for me to rank things. And I was like, you know what? I'm trying to decide between these two books. I can't decide. I'm just going to rank them both the same. And if you don't like that, tough, because that's just the way it is. That's just what I wanted to do because, again, I thought this was a really, really strong week. But I'm not a fan of Bizarro. I've said that before. And I'm not a fan of Adrian Gutierrez's art style. So for those reasons, Bizarro World Tour Part 2 comes in at number 11 for me. So Mark Waid is the writer. The aforementioned Adrian Gutierrez on art. Matt Herms on colors. Steve Wands on letters. This is just okay. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It's just okay. Um, the story and the explanation for what's happening with Bizarro World, it all made sense. Um, and I think it's more the art than the story for me. If this was by an artist whose style I enjoyed, like if Dan Moore was still in the book, for example, it might have been ranked higher. But this art is just, man, I just don't care for it. So that hurt the rankings. So anyway, where do you have this?
I ranked it at number 7 for me. I really enjoyed this. I could have in any other, it was good, but it wasn't good enough for my top 5. But I love Mark Waid's done a really just a bang up job here exploring Bizarro World. To me, what encapsulates my enjoyment of this series is that it feels like Silver Age fun. But my favorite sequence, there's a scene where Robin is blowing a bubble and it comes out like a square. To me, that just sort of symbolized the fact, of course, Bizarro World is a square world. And in fact, one of the ongoing jokes of DC over the years, when you talk about Bizarro has a square world, I mean, you just sort of accepted the absurdity of a square world. How is that even possible? Well, Mark Wade's finally addresses it, and of course, it is impossible to have a square world given the mainstream world physics, and it's the physics that's slowly there's another alien that comes down, and an alien visited Bizarro World and saw that Bizarro World was going to be destroyed because it's a square world, and the way the gravity works, it's going to be sucked in because the gravity is weaker on the corners of the square of the cube, and anyways, it just made it just made a lot of sense that this alien in an attempt to try to save Bizarro World, accidentally created the disease that is causing all of the Bizarros to become rational, and 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 the way that it's explained, I think it's sort of like re-educating people in terms of what Bizarro is. Mark Waid is careful to explain that this is an opposite world, but it isn't. We just say that Bizarro World is opposite. It's actually more complicated. It's more nuanced than that. It's really simply a case that the people of Bizarro World, all the Bizarros, they simply perceive reality differently, and the way they and the way they describe it is different. And I thought it was very well done, and yeah, and it's an enjoyable story. I think the art is actually suitable to the Bizarro aspect of it. I like. There's even an interesting version of Lex Luthor that I thought of, Bizarro Luthor and Bizarro Brainiac. And if you are into Bizarro, you're not so much a fan as you said, but if you are into Bizarro, this is certainly one of the more interesting takes, and another example of Mark Waid taking a Silver Age concept and maybe imbuing it with a little bit more of a modern day silliness, which is kind of what you want in my view. It makes the modern day DC and what DC is currently doing. And a lot of this highlighted by Mark Waid's approach. I think it works, and it sets a new foundation moving forward. So I thought it was pretty good.
All right. Up next, we have Absolute Flash number 6, Interlude the Rogues. So we have an issue that's focused on the Rogues. Written by Jeff Lemire, regular series artist on this issue, Nick Robles, Adriana Lucas on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. This comes in at number 5 for me. I thought this was one of the stronger issues. Absolute Flash has been kind of slipping in my enjoyment for the last few issues, but I thought this one was really great. Getting a chance to see the origin of the Rogues, the main cover is really awesome as well. But getting a chance to see that they were military people, I mean, a much different beginning for these Rogues, and Wally's dad being a catalyst for putting the Rogues together, Colonel West. That makes a lot of sense as well in terms of him kind of ordering them around and what have you. But the other thing that's interesting in this is the different factions that clearly are happening behind the scenes. And even though everybody supposedly is working for the government and on the same page, they're not. And that's very clear that these Rogues have been sort of hung out to dry by the government, by the military. And they're, even when we are first introduced to them, they're sort of on the fringes, if you will. We're told they're lucky to have avoided prison for whatever mission they were given, where clearly they did things that were illegal. And I don't think it was of their own volition. I think that's what they were ordered to do. Like, they were put in an impossible situation. So this is interesting that this version of Rogues that Jeff Lemire is giving us, they're a little more sympathetic inherently, because they've been put in a terrible position. Now, the fact that they've been given powers and they're following the orders of, again, following questionable orders. I mean, well, that was the whole point, right? Of why they were recruited by Colonel West. And he's just following orders as well, it seems. So, who's ever pulling the strings, who's ever the big shot caller is thinking, okay, well, we need a number of people that we can experiment on and give powers to, that will follow orders that are possibly questionable. Well, why not go back and get people who have followed orders that are questionable in the past? And so when these individuals are approached, they're again put in a possible situation. Either come along with us, we'll give you powers and you will obey, or we will, prosecute you, and most likely convict you for the impossible situation you were placed in the past before, and made those wrong choices, whether it was following orders or not. And, we're going to lock you up and throw away the key. So why would you not go back to that well, right? If you want people that will follow orders that are possibly morally questionable. So it makes total sense. But again, it does engender a little bit of sympathy for this version of the rogues, because they are not really in a position to, not follow these questionable orders if they want to maintain their freedom. Now, you can make the argument, well, it doesn't matter. If it means you go to prison for the rest of your life, you should still do the right thing. But I don't think any of us, unless we're in that situation and faced with, being thrown in a dark hole forever, never to see the light of day, or having superpowers, I mean, it almost seems like an easy choice, if you will. So again, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed having some context for the rogues. Remains to be seen whether Absolute Flash is going to kind of pick up the pace, as it were, which is so interesting. The fact that it's Flash and it's been a little slower paced. So I don't know. I mean, we've had that complaint about Jeff Lemire's JSA run as well. The pacing being a little slow. I mean, this isn't as slow as JSA by any means. And maybe I'm being overly critical of the pacing. Maybe it's just the fact that, it's not necessarily the pacing. It's just the fact that everything's still a mystery. I do tend to rate things a little lower when mysteries drag on too long, in my opinion. And this is sort of doing that, if you will. But again, I did enjoy this issue. It's probably the best issue since issue 2, or the issue that I enjoyed the most since like issue 1 or 2 of the Flash. And again, that main cover I thought was really, really strong from Nick Robles. So anyway, where did you rank this, Rocky?
I actually ranked this, and I might lower it a bit, but I presently have this ranked in my top 3. It might fall out of my top 3 as we continue to review the other ones. But, I agree. The Flash, Absolute Flash, has been one where it's become increasingly boring for me over the last, the high point, like you said, was issue 2. This one sort of put it back on my radar because it's finally a little bit more exciting, because this was getting really boring real quick. And I think to give this an underhanded compliment, or perhaps not so much a compliment, I love the cover too, and Flash is nowhere to be found. This is called Absolute Flash. I love the cover. I love the focus of this issue. And I kind of love the issue because it doesn't bother me at all that Wally West isn't even in this issue, or not much anyway. And I kind of like that. This absolute Wally West with this monkey on his shoulder, I just don't find him particularly appealing. My initial reservations have remained, but I really like the fact that this is sort of like an absolute Suicide Squad, but more sympathetic, a little bit more likable. I like that about this Rogues Gallery of the Flash. I really like the relationship between Captain Cold and his daughter and his sister Lisa, and the struggle she has with with her with the legs, and then West trying to recruit them all along with Barry Allen, and then this female Thawne character in the modern day, whose father or grandfather initially lost Jay Garrick into this mysterious force that isn't the Speed Force, but is something else back in 1944. So already we sort of get alluded to a Jay Garrick from 1944 in this timeline. What exactly is the force that powers up Wally West? We don't know. So there's still a lot of questions. This feels like this should have been a second or third issue. The content in here, I would have liked to have seen this much earlier. This is issue 6. I hear anecdotally that a lot of people share our sentiment. At least, again, that's my opinion, just my glazing over the internet, that a lot of people sort of share that the excitement for Absolute Flash has been dissipated. I'm hoping that a lot of this people come back to it. Sales still seem to be pretty damn steady. So there's that. But in any event, I really like this. I love the character work. I'm really curious to see how this is all, where this is going to go exactly. I really have no idea. What is this mysterious force if it's not the Speed Force? They're building these all into weapons. So it's, how is this related to the overall mythology of the Absolute Universe? That's still, there's very clearly a slow build here. And as much as we can talk about, we can rate them, Absolute Green Lantern maybe my least favorite, this might be next, et cetera, et cetera. The fact is, I'm still reading them all, and I'm still so damn curious as to how everything's linked. And to the credit of all the writers of the Absolute Universe, they are mindful. They seem to be mindful of what other writers are doing. And so for those of us that are sticking and reading all these titles, there's something in there for all of us to sort of latch on to. And that's what kind of keeps me pulling me back to Absolute Flash here as well. So again, it was in my top three, but we'll see if it stays there.
Yeah, very interesting because for me, the shine has really come off the Absolute universe. In as much as I don't enjoy the Absolute titles more than the regular universe titles. I mean, I read everything. DC, obviously.
Yeah.
Given the choice, would there be some DC Absolute titles that I wouldn't read? I don't know. It still is early days, as you mentioned, so I'm probably still curious enough that I would be reading all of them. I can't necessarily say the same thing for all the regular universe titles. There might be one or two that I would stop reading. So I guess I'm still invested as well. However, it's interesting because I don't really care how they're linked. That's not where my curiosity comes from, at all. I really could care less about. I know people are really excited. There's going to be a crossover. It was announced at a DC Comic Con that we're going to get a crossover of Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman. That's coming up pretty soon. Again, so what? Don't care. I want the stories and the Absolute characters to stand on their own, and for the most part, they have been. And we can debate and have debated the various merits of the individual titles, and that's fine. But I want them to stand on their own, and I'm not in a hurry for them to cross over and see how they're linked or whatever. Again, it just doesn't matter to me. I'm enjoying them for what they are for the most part. That being said, I will disagree that that this should have been like issue 2 or 3. I mean, I don't even think the Rogues showed up till issue 3. I might be mistaken. They may have shown up in issue 2. But I like that we got this when we did because we had much more context for who the Rogues are in terms of the way they've followed orders and pursued Wally. So I think issue 6 was kind of the perfect time for this, especially based on how the story has played out so far in terms of, hey, let's wait and see, how it goes and how the series has been received, and maybe we do need a little bit of a palate cleanser around issue 6. I mean, this will be most likely the final issue for the trade, for the first trade, which again I think makes a lot of sense. So I thought smart choice to put it at 6. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Batman and Robin Year 1, number 10. This comes in at 8 for me, but again, I thought, really strong. I'm really enjoying this. Co-plotted by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, written by Waid, art by Samnee, colors by Mateus Lopez, letters by Clayton Cowles with Chris Samnee. We know that it turns out that Two-Face is actually the big bad. He actually orchestrated the murder of Grimaldi, General Grimaldi, and has taken over his gang. And in this particular issue, we see that he's got some scientists that are working for him that are basically using, it looks like they're using something from Clayface, maybe some of Clayface's clay itself to basically infect his henchmen. And then those henchmen are using the Clayface ability to basically disguise themselves as the Gotham City Police Department. So Clayface can use the Gotham City Police Department as his gang, as it were. He's still using his gang, but they're disguised as Gotham City Police Department, which obviously gives them more access and more ability to do terrible things. So they're going after Batman and Robin in this particular issue, where I think this shines the most is going to be for fans of Chris Samnee. I mean, the art is so fantastic. His art style has that sort of timeless feel, much like Doc Shaner's does. So again, anybody who's a fan of Samnee, I'm sure they're reading this. I'm sure they're loving it. And then where the emotional aspect of the story comes in, it is in that relationship that's being explored. And the reason that Samnee wanted to do this and then pulled in his buddy Mark Waid was to explore that early relationship between Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson and see how their strong bond was formed. And we're definitely seeing that here. They sort of have very similar experiences at the end of this issue when the GCPD has manipulated things with the kind of the social services department of Gotham City, and Bruce Wayne has been accused of stock fraud, and he's getting hauled off in handcuffs. And when Dick Grayson tries to intervene, they're like, "Well, you're being removed from this environment as well. Obviously, we apologize. We didn't mean to put you with a criminal." And they think he's sort of brainwashed in a way, because he's like, "Get your hands off Bruce. You can't take him away, what have you." So that he ends up in handcuffs and dragged away by the police as well, for his own good, as it were. So yeah, I thought this was a strong issue. The only reason it ranked at number 8 for me outside of the top 5 is just because of the strength of so many of the other books this week. Where did you have this?
I had this at number 8 for myself, and I agree. I continue to enjoy this. Mark Waid's doing a great job. I love Chris Samnee's art. It feels like it's taken place in the past, so it in my own head canon, it's always an easy fit. I love that it's an earlier version of Two-Face, and it makes so much sense that Two-Face would try to manipulate and control the police department and also the mafia and the mob at the same time, which he did by killing Grimaldi and his father, and then using Clayface technology, using a scientist to create Clayface technology to take over the police department, because of course he's Harvey Dent, former prosecutor. So it fits so well in who Harvey Dent is, or who Two-Face is, and it just fits. And then at the same time, juxtaposing that with the struggle between Bruce and Dick as they get to know each other. There's trust issues there, but clearly like you said, there's a strong bond forming, and we've seen that bond form over the since issue 1, and we're 10 issues in, and it's a lot of fun. And every issue doesn't feel wasted. Last issue, I was stunned when Grimaldi was killed. That was a major revelation. I was expecting him to be some major character, and I thought he was going to be a battle with Two-Face. No, there was a misdirection, and I loved it. It sort of threw me for a loop. For 9 issues, we were led to one direction, and all of a sudden, boom! And I loved that. I thought that was so cleverly and well done. And now it's like, now Two-Face he's leveled up here, and of course, this is essentially almost like Two-Face year 1, not just Batman and Robin year 1 indirectly. But in any event, I quite enjoyed this issue. But again, it was a good week. It was just my top 5. I think I'm pretty solid on this week. But no, this was pretty good.
Yeah, Mark Waid's words when I mentioned that, being so surprised about Grimaldi being killed, and that Two-Face is the big bad and not Grimaldi himself. He said right there in the interview, he's like, "It's Two-Face. It's a double cross, right? 2." So yeah, it makes perfect sense, and so well done. And huge credit to Chris Samnee as well. I mean, he co-plotted this. So I should have asked. I didn't think about it at the time. I should have asked Mark if whose idea that was, if they came up with it together, if it was his idea, if it was Samnee's. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's well executed. I'm just curious, sort of. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Catwoman number 78. Torunn Gronbekk on script, Danilo Beyruth on art, Patricia Del Pesce on colors, Steve Wands on letters. Man, I really like this. It came in at number 7 for me. Again, just based on the strength of the week, it was hard to rank it any higher. But might be my favorite issue of the Torunn Gronbekk run so far. But again, like my criticisms of it remain the same, which is it's just such a large cast, and being that most of them are just, they don't have superpowers, they're not wearing costumes, they're sort of civilian villains, if you will, if that's a term, and so it is a little tougher to keep track of everybody and remember who they are and what they've done and what have you. That being said, smaller cast here as we're getting down to the end of this story. And it's a little easier to kind of understand what's going on. And what's going on is just an incredible crime story of double cross, and, linking back to Catwoman's earliest days, Selena Kyle's earliest days, when she was, using the pseudonym Evie Hall, and, the crime family in Europe that she was involved in, and their secrets are coming to light. And so, yeah, there's a lot of emotion in this issue, and there's a lot of answers. Again, maybe it goes back to I like this so much because I'm just getting answers to questions that we've had throughout the entirety of this run from Torunn Gronbekk. But it's never been more clear to me what I've been saying all along about this run is that it's going to read so much better as a collected edition because it's going to be easier to keep track of who's who and what they've done and what their motivations are and what have you, as opposed to a monthly serialized book. And with all of the climax basically beginning to take place here, that's just been reinforced by me. So I thought the art in this issue was strong as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to sit down and read this. Like, as tough as it's going to be for me to make time to read this all in one sitting or over a weekend or what have you, I'm definitely going to do it once the story. And I don't know if Gronbekk's going to continue on the on the title. Once she's done telling this huge story that seems like it's going to be about 12 issues. Take her a whole year. We'll see. I hope she does because I think that I like the voice that she's giving Selina Kyle. Although, one other criticism of this series might be that because it's such a big cast and because there's so many moving parts, it does feel like it's not necessarily. I mean, it is a Catwoman story. Don't get me wrong, but she seems less front and center than she might, if this were a different type of story, if this were her not necessarily exploring events from her past and dealing with the consequences of those choices and the situation she put herself in. But if she was, planning a heist or, something along those lines, she would seem like, more of the main character. Whereas this story, even though it's a Catwoman series, it's a Catwoman title, this is definitely more of an ensemble story. So I would be very curious if Torunn Gronbekk continues, if we're going to get a story up next where it's less of an ensemble piece and more of, Catwoman as the kind of the main protagonist, if you will. But again, I'm really enjoying this. I'm looking forward to reading it, basically in a kind of a collected edition. So what are your thoughts on it? Where did it rank for you?
It ranked at number 9 for me. I continue to be. This has been a series where I keep wanting to give it the benefit of the doubt more and more. But my initial criticisms that started off as concerns have just been magnified as the series has progressed. I don't think I'm going to be reading this as a series like you are. Uh, I, I actually enjoyed this particular issue because we finally got a summary of, oh, so that's what this was all about. That's how I felt reading this. So what were the previous 9 or 10 issues about? And why did I always feel like I had to, go back and reread the previous 2 or 3 or 4 issues as it continued to build? Now, we read a lot of comics and, and I, as you're all aware, sometimes I just misread comics. It happens. But this has been a miss for me. And I wanted more. I frankly wanted more Catwoman, and I wanted more sexiness. I haven't been a fan of the art. The art's been okay. It's not sexy enough. It hasn't pulled me in, and it is I think it's a legitimate criticism that Catwoman can be. I think she should be more prominent in this series. But then I suppose if the story was more compelling to me, maybe that wouldn't matter. I mean, we can compare this to Batgirl, where Batgirl maybe wasn't the center in her series. That's a concern for you. And that, you mentioned that criticism of Batgirl series, and it didn't bother me at all because I really like the supporting cast. But at least in Batgirl, the supporting cast are well-known characters. Maybe I got to give this more credit, but in terms of who these characters are. But I will say that at the very least, in this issue, we do get clearly there's been a lot of character work building up to this, but I never really felt that there was a brotherly bond here. With one of the lead characters finding out that his mother, who's sort of like the godmother of the mafia, she's basically her son's, her one brother, she basically cheated on him, and her one brother killed his other brothers. And even in the transitions and the hinting of that, I thought there was just missed opportunities, that the revelations didn't hit as hard as they ought to have. And I think a large part of that, I'm sorry, I have to say, I have to attribute to the art. The way that was, it just came across to me. It wasn't as good as it could have been. This should hit harder. And so I just think that this was just a story that, for me personally, it's floundered, and I'm not even sure. Even at the end here, is it over? It can be over, but it says part two. This feels like part 12 and 13, and it's still not over. But in any event, being a little harsh maybe, but that's just the way it makes me feel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna again. She pitched it. The story is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm certainly enjoying it more than some recent Catwoman runs that really, starred her, but maybe didn't make as much sense. Like I think I enjoyed this more than the one where we just had her with 9 lives,
Yeah.
because that was a bit, messy. But that, you know, obviously I mean, DC hasn't put a what I would consider a sexy artist on Catwoman in a long time. I don't really care. That's not a consideration. You obviously care much more about that than I do. But the point remains that Catwoman, it doesn't seem like DC really cares if she comes across as sexy or not, honestly, which is fine. They own her, that she's the character. You wonder if maybe that has anything to do with having a female editor in chief. I have no idea. Maybe it's just the fact that she doesn't, she's not as high profile as a character right now, and so that's why they're not putting a bigger named artist on her, or not. But I say all that to say, will she have a more prominent role going forward? That remains to be seen. I imagine that she's going to be on the list of DCKO people. That she's going to be in a fight with somebody because she is popular. But will she win her fight? I wouldn't expect her to. So yeah, I say all that to say I think that Catwoman's in a really tough spot right now, interesting spot, with where she will be going forward. I mean, this is issue 78. That I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody in the comments, but I'm pretty sure this is the longest running solo Catwoman series that we've had. And remember, this launched with Joelle Jones,
Yeah,
and the
but it's
argument
not
could
the
be made.
longest. Well, I mean, Jim Balance, that series went
Oh, it went over
93 issues
100.
or
Yeah,
something, or over 100 or something maybe. But
yeah,
yeah,
you're right. Different time, the 90s. Yeah. But
yeah,
anyway, like I think about this story, what Torunn Grunbeck's been doing, and this launched to much fanfare from Joelle Jones, but then it started being late. The art wasn't particularly good. The story was all over the place. I mean, I'm enjoying this more than when the series started. So yeah, again, I say all that to say Catwoman's in an interesting place. We'll see. Um, yeah, we'll see where she goes from here. All right. Up next, we have Detective Comics number 1100, which they're kind of using to celebrate as an anniversary, which completely makes sense. When you think about, an issue 100, oftentimes they will celebrate that as an anniversary issue, and it definitely is. But this is 1100, and so it, it just that number, it feels kind of random, but at the same time, when you think about it, well, it does make sense that typically they're going to celebrate a 100, a 200, a 300, just put 1,000 issues in front of it. But it sort of feels like once you get to 1,000, you maybe shouldn't celebrate an anniversary till you get to like 1,500. But that's another 500 issues. That's another 40 years or something like that.
yeah.
So they don't want to wait that long, clearly. So they are celebrating issue 1100 here as an anniversary. And there's several stories, starting with Lost and Found by Tom Taylor, with art and colors by Mikhail Yanin and letters by Wes Abbott. And that's a silent story, which is just fantastic. We also have a story by Mariko Tamaki, with art by Amin K. Nahelapen, with Arif Prianto on colors and Ariana Mayer having letters, which is sort of, I guess it's a Bruce Wayne story, for lack of a better way to put it. Which, Mariko Tamaki, I think, has a good handle on Bruce. She has a good handle on Batman as well, but she especially has a good handle on Bruce, I feel like. So she was a good choice for that one. Then we have the Knife and Gun Club, which is written by Greg Rucka, which is not even necessarily a Batman story, but again, a very good choice of a writer to put on the story for what it is. It's a story that's more about the Gotham City Hospital as opposed to any one character. Alvaro Martinez Bueno on art there, which again, a great choice. He's so good at drawing kind of just everyday people, as we've seen in the Nice House titles from writer James Tynion. Giovanni Nero handles the colors on that story, and then Tom Napolitano on letters. So, with these and then there is one other final story written by Dan Waters with art by Bill Sienkiewicz, which again, Bill he doesn't do interiors that much anymore. So having him do kind of a shorter story made a lot of sense. Tom Napolitano handles the letters because obviously Bill, colors his own work, as it were. So with these 4 stories, they sort of cover different aspects of who Batman is. So I thought that it worked really, really well. And this was definitely in my top 3. But where did you rank it? I'll let you go first.
It was in my top 3 too. I love this. I loved the Lost and Found story. I think that not surprisingly, it hit the heartstrings the most. And I'm not even a dog person, but who doesn't, who can't, who doesn't get the feels when you got a kid loses his dog? But it's called Lost and Found. The Mikhail Shannon arts is what really made it shine for me. I love the fact that it's silent. It's so well done. Basically, a kid is bullied and his dog is stolen by a punk, by a gang member, and Batman discovers this kid is also deaf, so there's like sign language in it, which is so it's appropriate that it's a silent issue. It just magnifies the fact that Batman is for everybody, and of course Batman knows sign language, and of course this kid, he Batman takes it upon himself to find the dog, and of course uses the Bat Hound to he finds something that this kid gives him a toy that his dog played with. Batman has his own dog sniff it, and they track down the gang member, locate the dog, return the dog, and then the kid, of course, gives Batman the $6 reward at the end. It's just heartfelt. It's a good story, beautifully told, and it's just it's one of those stories that can only be told in comics in many ways, and you let the art tell you the story, which is just so wonderful to see, because we don't see it'd be nice to see. We don't see a lot of silent issues anymore, but we saw it here, and to great effect. And there's the Bruce Wayne story with respect to he's at where he is at. He's at a gala, and Bruce Wayne is he's doing community service, and he's basically, they didn't think Bruce Wayne would show up, and then he's sitting at a table where there's some reporters, cynical reporters, because Bruce Wayne is a member of the elite, and they accuse him of just giving money and they're trying to like ramp him up and trying to get a good quote from him to basically probably give him some bad press, because he's Bruce Wayne, and so they want to make an example of him, that you don't really care about the community, you just throw money at it, you just cut a check to community organizations, you don't really care. But Bruce Wayne doesn't take the bait, although he's still Bruce Wayne, and it juxtaposes itself between scenes of Batman saving the day, battling the Joker, and doing what is necessary to help the community, while at the same time playing the role as Bruce Wayne. And to magnify the fact, Marika Tamaki did a good job of making it clear that Bruce Wayne, as Bruce Wayne says to the reporter at the end, I serve Gotham my way, you serve your way, and that's the way it all is. We all serve the community in different ways, and we all do what we can, and we all have our own methods. And we might disagree with each other, but at the end of the day, it all works out in the end. Greg Rucka, so great to see him writing more for DC. The Knife and the Gun Club, basically a story about how the ER and how the emergency went from having a lot of deaths and gunshot wounds to just like knives and minor bruises and abrasions, and fewer people are dying since Batman showed up, and Batman's relationship and how he's viewed by the hospital and emergency staff. Again, it's a nice perspective. It's really nice to see that. And then at the end, the final one was Sienkiewicz's art. You really see the sort of like through the viewpoint of a villain who's basically Batman. He's falling down a building, and it's basically just a narration, and it's only through Sienkiewicz's art that you see sort of like the cockiness of the villain, ending with the sort of terror of the villain as he's ultimately saved by Batman falling off a building. And anyways, very well done. Overall, if you just want a snapshot of Batman from different angles, like you said, this is a really great read. easily my top three.
Yeah, the best part about the Lost and Found for me was, he saved the deaf kid's dog and whatever,
Yeah.
and that's what you expect from Batman. But it's the final page of Lost and Found where you see that this is something Batman does regularly. Like he took the poster, the Lost poster that the little boy had put up, and he pins it up on a bulletin board in the Bat Cave, and you see that it's something that he does all the time. That he, along with Ace the Bat Hound, goes and searches for lost pets for these families. So that was where it really made sense for me. And I am somebody who has dogs, and I don't know that I'm a dog lover, certainly not the way my wife is, because I take dogs on a case-by-case basis as opposed to just loving all dogs like my wife does. But yeah, that really got me. And as far as the second story, I mean, I'm one of those people that feels like we don't get enough Bruce Wayne. Like I totally subscribe to the idea, and I want to say that this idea, I don't think Scott Snyder was the first one to kind of espouse it, but I think he was the one that most recently, at least in kind of recent memory, is the one who brought it to prominence, and talked about it a lot, which is Batman's the real person and Bruce Wayne is the mask. And I can even kind of understand that. But that being said, I want to see more Bruce Wayne. I just do, because, maybe it's nostalgia for when I first started reading Batman and how we got a lot more Bruce Wayne back then. Because I do think that the Bruce Wayne character has a role to play in Batman and in Gotham City. So I was, overjoyed when I heard Matt Fraction talk about the fact we're going to get a lot more Bruce Wayne in his run, which I've had a chance to read the first 2 issues of Fraction's run, and it's so great. It's so good. I can't wait for everybody else to check it out as well. So that being said, this Marika Tamaki story with Bruce Wayne, as you mentioned, it all comes down to that final line where he tells the reporter who has aspirations for political office to say, yeah, you do it. We're all going to serve the city. You do it your way. I'll do it mine. And obviously this reporter doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. So, I enjoyed that. As I mentioned, Greg Rucka, perfect choice to kind of give us the everyman story. This one makes a lot of sense as well. I enjoyed that they're addressing it, right? Like all these broken bones and concussions and injuries that Batman causes. And I definitely love the way he presents it, because you're a little horrified when you first see this. You're first told, yeah, look at all these people that are coming in. Batman's really on a rampage tonight. And we see him do those things in the comics, but we don't often see what comes next for those people that have been injured. But when it's compared against what we're told by the doctor, the head resident here, who's talks about, well, yeah, before Batman came, it wasn't injuries, it was death, it was murders and what have you. So yeah, it kind of flips around. We are in a way that POV, younger doctor who sees all the injuries Batman causes as a bad thing. We're kind of taking that journey along with her. So it's very well done by Rucka. This is one of those stories that shows why he's such a fantastic writer. And yeah, the Dan Water story, yeah, it's all about emotion, which is invoked by the Sienkiewicz art of all the tiny little calculations that go into Batman doing what he does physically in order to save people. Even a guy who's putting himself in that situation. Maybe your tendency is to not try as hard. This guy jumps off the building. So who am I to save you if you're, putting yourself in that situation purposefully? But Batman doesn't think like that. Instead, he's concentrating on how he can save, what he needs to do, from the position of his arms to, calculating his velocity and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, really, really great. Like Rocky said, a real great snapshot of the different facets of Batman. In that way, it reminds me a little bit of, I think it's Batman Annual 9, which has 4 different stories, 4 different aspects of Batman. It's very famous, has a painted cover with basically 4 busts of Batman. One, he's the detective, one, he's the, Dark Knight, and, that sort of thing. So anyway, moving on. Up next, we have Titans number 26, written by John Layman. Max Raynor is the artist, Matt Herms on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. Max Raynor is an artist. I typically enjoy his art, and this is no exception. I think he does a great job. But I have to admit, I enjoy the aesthetic that Pete Woods and John Layman have established on this title. But if you're going to get somebody that needs to fill in, having to be Max Rainer's not bad by any stretch. I didn't enjoy this issue as much as I've been enjoying most of the recent issues of the Titans. It felt a little slow, a little bit of a transitional issue. So it only comes in at number 10 for me. But I did appreciate seeing the Doom Patrol. If we were ever going to get a Doom Patrol title, I think John Layman would be a good person to write it. I mean, I would prefer them to bring Dennis Culver back, but if it's going to be somebody other than Dennis Culver, John Layman would be pretty high up on my list. So, yeah, just again, a little bit slow. Feels like we haven't really gotten going, and I'm not familiar at all with this Zookeeper character, who apparently is going to be the big bad for the next arc. But guy definitely he needs to work on his skincare routine. I'll say that. Anyway, what do you think of this? Where does it rank for you?
It ranked number 9 for me. By the way, I moved my Catwoman. I put Catwoman at number 10. I just stuck Titans in at number 9. I changed that because I just enjoy this. I like, not a heck of a lot happened this issue, but I was so happy to see Doom Patrol. You and I really love that series, written by Morgan Frampton, and there's even an alternate cover that reminds me of that.
Written by Dennis Culver.
Thank you. Written by Dennis Colfer. And I really enjoy that. And it was really great to see the Doom Patrol again. It was nice to see Beast Boy and Cyborg show up. Beast Boy and Cyborg basically go on a road trip here because Cyborg's pretty upset. Cyborg in many ways sort of created Venadia. You know, she's and it's very interesting what Dan Waters has done here with, John Layman has done. John Layman has done with his characterization of Venadia. She's done a different character. Her character's evolving different than Cyborg's. Cyborg wants to embrace his humanity. Venadia does not want to embrace hers. She wants to embrace the computer. She thinks Cyborg's made the wrong mistake, that she sees humanity as being weak and sort of frail, and she likes the logic and her approach to life, sentience, is to embrace the logic and the algorithms and the more of the technological side of things, where Cyborg's made a different decision. And there's almost a tragedy there. Cyborg and Venadia, their relationship isn't, it's not like they're lovers or anything like that. They're more friends. It might be more paternal. Cyborg feels that he sort of lost her because she wants to explore things and go off into the universe and explore, a technological side of things. And it's very different than Cyborg. And I thought that John Layman did a good job of showing that you can make different choices. It actually makes me wonder, if we did manage to create an AI construct that was capable of being human, would an AI construct even want to embrace humanity? I mean, what advantages does humanity have over super intelligence? I mean, it's a question one can debate, but I sort of like that it's sort of hinted at here, and we're likely going to see Venadia at some point in the future. And overall, it was an interesting issue. There's a conversation between Donna and Wonder Woman that's not bad. A lot of this stuff, it's sort of like moving forward. Again, it's more of a sort of like, this is sort of like an epilogue issue, but again, well done, but just not well done. Another good comic, but just great to see the Doom Patrol, but couldn't make my top 5.
Yeah, this is actually the first issue, though, of any of the series this week that had a variant cover that I'll shout out. Because for the most part, the variant cover is kind of underwhelmed, but the series artist on that Dennis Culver written Doom Patrol series that we loved was Chris Burnham. And Chris Burnham gives us a Doom Patrol cover. I mean, it's a Doom Patrol cover, basically, because even Cyborg has a Doom Patrol jacket on. But the rest, because it's bringing Beast Boy back, who was, originally in the Doom Patrol. And we have Beast Girl, and we have Robot Man, and we have Negative Man, as well as Elastigirl, and then Cyborg front and center. Even though he's never been a member of the Doom Patrol, he has a Doom Patrol jacket on, and yeah, it very much evoked the feel of that Doom Patrol series that we love so much. So anyway, moving on. Up next we have Nightwing. We're up to issue number 129, written by Dan Waters. Regular series artist Dexter Soy handles the art duties. Veronica Gandini on colors. Wes Abbott on letters. This came in at number 6 for me, actually tied at number 6. This is one of the ones that I had a hard time between this and another title. Is the finale of the other story where we kind of get the resolution of what's going on with the Titan's Tower and Night Might, as it were. So I did enjoy this, but it didn't quite make my top 5. But the reason it ranked as high as it did is because despite the fact that we're getting the resolution of this, it really leads into a story point that's going to continue in Nightwing, which I really loved, which is having the Nightwing, the classic Nightwing from pre-Crisis, when Superman used to go into the bottled city of Kandor and he didn't have powers, because they're under a red sun. He would take the identity of Nightwing, and obviously he's still very skilled, physically and what have you. And Nightwing being
Van Z is his name. Van Z from Kandor.
Yeah. But previously when Clark would go or Superman would go and he would take that identity of Nightwing, which is a Kryptonian bird, and he would fight crime. And there were several stories in mostly the Bronze Age with Superman going and being Nightwing and having a sidekick of Flamebird and what have you. But then, the decision made by Van Z later on to say, even when Superman's not here, we need a Nightwing to be kind of a hero, almost a Batman-like character in the city of Kandor. And this Bryce Moran character, who was a member of the Teddies that we've seen before, and getting the abilities of Nightwing, but the abilities of that Kryptonian Nightwing, which are almost Superman-like powers if he were in the real world. And that's what we have here. So we don't exactly know the extent of his powers or what have you, but it was through his desire to help, and through his desire, Bryce Moran's desire to help, and Bryce Moran's desire to have enough power to not be put in the vulnerable position that he's been put in most recently, with having to hide out from the Bloodhaven Police Department, with everything that Spheric Solutions has done to give them military grade technology and weaponry and what have you. So you can understand this 11-year-old kid. If you're an 11-year-old kid and you live in a universe like the DC universe, one of your wishes, of course, is going to be to have powers and to not be vulnerable, and to be able to have the ability to fight back if somebody bullies you or what have you. So even though we have the resolution from Night Might and Titan Tower is returned to normal or what have you, Bryce Moran remains as this Nightwing character, as this superpowered Nightwing character. That's going to have big ramifications going forward, because he's a 11-year-old that's not somebody that I would consider well-adjusted, right? Like, make the argument that, well, Billy Batson, Captain Marvel, he's just a kid and he handles his powers well and doesn't, overstep or whatever. But he's grown up in a much different situation. With a loving foster family or what have you. This kid's grown up on the streets as a member of a gang, so you can definitely see him crossing the line, using his powers irresponsibly, that sort of thing. I expect that is probably the most consequential thing to come out of this other storyline, because the actual plot of it, like the story with the Titan's Tower being taken over and kind of whatever, I wasn't really enjoying it that much. I kind of felt like, what was the point? It didn't really advance the Olivia Pierce, Nightwing conflict, that story, that plot line. It didn't really advance it forward that much. It didn't really give us any resolution to the Cirque du Sin storyline plot thread that's been going on, that obviously Olivia Pierce is part of. So I almost was like, this almost felt like a unwelcome interruption and delay of that storyline. But the one thing that has come out of it is this new Nightwing character, Bryce Moran, that's going to probably cause a lot of headaches. And obviously, Dick Grayson, not having the best childhood either, is, we know he's already been very sympathetic to Bryce Moran. That's going to continue. But unfortunately, he's going to have to deal with some of the consequences, because this kid is not going to make good choices. I mean, it's just so obvious to me that that's where this thing is going. So as far as the art, I mean, Dexter Soy's art continues to be really strong. It really suits the style and tone that Dan Watters is is establishing for this book. So even though this didn't make my top 5, very, very good. And only because this week is really strong for me. So anyway, where does this come in for you?
I've been moving around my rankings from 6 to 11 here, so I put this in at number 7, and I moved everything else accordingly. I enjoyed it. I love Van Z. I have fond memories in the pages of the Superman family back in the early '80s. Adventures of Nightwing and Flamebird in the Bottle City of Kandor. I'm There's some confusion on my part in terms of how this all works out, but it's the fifth dimension. So when Dick Grayson's Nightwing is in this sort of like this jelly-like substance, he's in this fifth dimension, and you got this merging of Bryce Moran into this fifth dimensional concept of Nightwing, which is Van Z from Kandor. I'm not sure if do we have actually we got Van Z that is also Bryce Moran, so they're kind of merged together. How exactly does that work? We got this kid named Bryce. He's in control of Van Z, but then is Van Z?
I don't think this
also?
is Van Z at all. This is just
Yeah.
Bryce Moran with the powers of Nightwing, the Van Z version of Nightwing. But I don't think Van Z. Van Z's still in Kandor, as far as I am concerned.
Okay, all right, because that was the one thing I wasn't sure, because they mentioned Van Z, and so I'm just wondering. So technically, then there could still be 2 Van Z's, because now we've got this Bryce character, Bryce as Nightwing, in the mainstream universe, and he's out there, and it reminds me a little bit of Gotham Girl, where there was Gotham Girl in the pages of Tom King's created character there in his Batman run, where you got these very inexperienced superpowered beings, and just like Batman had a precarious relationship with the Gotham siblings, now of course Nightwing has to try to control Bryce or bring him under his wing. So it's going to be interesting moving forward, and there's a lot of story potential there that I quite like, because we know Nightwing himself, Dick Grayson, is sort of a mentor to John Kent now, who's super powered, and now so he's got some experience as mentoring super powered people. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward what Dan Waters does with that.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's not Van Z. It's like his own person, because that would be cool to see Van Z show up. Like if Dick feels like this guy's too powerful, can't really handle him. Let me go get the actual Nightwing from Kandor, and because we haven't seen Van Z in a long time, as far as I know. So that would be great to actually see Van Z. Anyway, up next we have Superman Unlimited number 4, written by Dan Slott. Lucas Meyer and Raphael Albuquerque are the artists. Marcelo Maiello and Matt Herms on colors. Dave Sharp on letters. It's probably my least favorite issue of Superman Unlimited so far. It only came in at number 9 for me. And it's partly because we're sort of told the action and not necessarily see the action. So yeah, this didn't rank real high. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but yeah, just based on the strength of the week, only number 9 for me. What about you?
Well, I just want to tell people the premise of this, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's ultimately what it is we know what the Dan Slott's central plot that he brought to his Superman run is, that there's because of a kryptonite meteor that crash landed on Earth, we now have there's an abundance of kryptonite, and now kryptonite as a chemical and as a substance is being integrated into many products that are being sold to the populace. And in this story, it's essentially Superman rescues a woman, and she kisses him, and her lipstick contains traces of kryptonite, and it was just enough kryptonite to weaken Superman a bit, but just weaken Superman's immune system such that the Clayface, or essentially the Man-Bat virus, wasn't killed by Superman's antibodies, because the kryptonite lipstick sort of weakened him a bit, so that he was spreading the Man-Bat diseases throughout Gotham. So Superman became, his own body wasn't killing the disease, and so he was causing the spread of the Man-Bat virus. And so I sort of like the premise. It was kind of a cool premise, and it caused significant problems, because Superman himself was infected by the Man-Bat virus, and we got to see Big Barda and Batgirl and Black Canary come into the fray, sort of the Birds of Prey making an appearance, and there was some really great interaction, some decent fight scenes. I thought the art was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I liked the premise of it, and it was a decent enough story, but it was just beat out by other stories that were just a little bit better this week. But it was still entertaining.
Yeah, definitely entertaining. It definitely had a kind of a Silver Age feel. We see all these stories, Batman with a, or sorry, Superman with a lion head, or
Yeah.
Superman turned into an insect or whatever. So it had that feel. Um, but yeah, just based on the strength of other things this week, it didn't rank very high for me. All right, up next, Wonder Woman number 24, The Island of Mice and Men, Part 2, written by Tom King. Gorgeous art by Daniel Sampere. Tomei Mori on colors, Clayton Cowell on letters. It's amazing to me that that Daniel Sampere, it feels like he continues to get better. He's already so good. Like, he was so good on that Justice League annual I've talked about so many times from the Scott Snyder run, and he continues to get better. And that's very important in a story like this, where I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are going to complain, already have complained about the previous issue, and how basically all anybody on this island says is mice have ears and mice man knows. Those are like the two sentences, and that they know that they're allowed. Those are the only words they're allowed to say, and they've managed to sort of use those two sentences to sort of create their own language and be able to actually communicate with each other based on where they put the emphasis on, which particular words and the way they string those sentences together. But I can see why a lot of people, might be confused or annoyed by this. But when you have that, how are you have that kind of language that is sort of nonsensical and doesn't really have any meaning, or not traditional meaning the way that we're going to read the English language. How's the story going to be conveyed? Well, it's more important than ever to have strong visual storytelling from Daniel Sampere, and he does a fantastic job. So, again, I'm just continue to be impressed by what we're getting here. So this comes in my top three, with the strength of the art and the visual storytelling, as well as the fact that it just seems like a fun story, a really cool story that's elevating Wonder Woman in a lot of ways, right? So she goes to this island. She struggles to communicate with the little girl that she rescued at the end of last issue. We get a little bit more context in terms of seeing this sort of secret police, is what I'll call them. These that they kind of look ridiculous because they're wearing hats that have mouse ears on them, which is really funny, like military style hats that you're used to seeing, but they have mouse ears attached to them, which just seems so ridiculous. And that's one of the other things that I love about what Tom King has done here. When you talk about mice and seeing them as ubiquitous but innocuous and also sort of ridiculous, but Mouse Man is definitely a threat. And seeing Wonder Woman traverse this island with baby Lizzie strapped to her back, seeing the secret police, and they actually do speak in some other words, because this is I guess such a dangerous situation, or a threatening situation with Wonder Woman on the island. But seeing her take out these secret police like they're nothing. There's a scene where she throws her tiara, kind of similar to the way Captain America throws his shield. It like bounces off one mouse secret police guy to another, to a third, bounces off the wall, hits a fourth. Like, it's just so cool. And seeing her just not taking any crap, basically, taking out these guys, and then standing over them as they're all kind of unconscious on the ground. And she's like, "Tell me, what does Mouse Man know?" And then Mouse Man, realizing that Wonder Woman is there on the island, obviously she constitutes a threat. I thought it was fantastic. It was so great. I was smiling the whole time. Again, the Daniel Sampere art, super, super strong. And this is what Wonder Woman does. This is what Wonder Woman should do, because don't forget, last issue, she had made a request to whomever, a diplomatic request to go into the island, because we know that I was correct last time in assuming that she was there to rescue Etta Candy, and that's confirmed in this issue. But she made that request. Hey, I need to go to this island. My friend is being held captive there, and the rest of the Justice League, because whomever, I'm assuming she made the request to the U.S. government, and based on the recent problems that the Amazonians have had with the U.S. government. You know, they denied her request, and even Batman and Superman are like, "Hey, we'll figure out another way or whatever." And she's like, "No, we're not going to figure out another way. I'm going to go in there and do what I do, and I don't care what the U.S. government has to say about it." So the fact that she's going to rescue Etta Candy, as well as, I can't remember her name. Is it Emily? Whoever the Kryptonian, whoever the Amazonian girl was, or
Yeah.
woman was, the one that we saw in the very first issue of Tom King's Wonder Woman, when she
Yeah. That was
basically
Emily,
gets
I
in that,
think. Yeah.
yeah, Emily, yeah, she gets in that bar fight, and that's the
Yeah.
thing that sparked the whole banning of Amazon's extradition and all that. She's being held on this island as well, so we're getting a cool story. Yes, it's unorthodox. I'm perfectly fine with that. I know some people might not be. And that's fine. Maybe this isn't for you. Don't read it. If you don't like it, don't read it. It's simple. But the fact that we're getting an unorthodox story where Wonder Woman's kicking ass, and at the end of the story, we're going to get an advancement of that plot thread that goes all the way back to the very beginning of this run from Tom King. Yeah, with maybe the best artist working in comics today, Daniel Sampere, handling the art duties with fantastic narrative storytelling and transitions, because he doesn't have a choice based on the limitations he has with the language that Tom King's using. I mean, it's nearly a perfect comic. So it's definitely in my top three. Yeah. So anyway, I'm curious to hear what you have to say, although I probably know that we can boil it down to you didn't like it,
Uh,
as usually is the case with Wonder Woman.
well, it's either last or second last for me this week. But I will say this. This is what I mean, the art, obviously, Daniel Sampere's art is fantastic. It always is. I really love the battle sequences too. I love how he sort of he's really good at rendering Wonder Woman in in action. There's no question about that. Um, the jury's still out for me in terms of this. I mean, the central. I don't I don't I don't really see the point of. I can imagine and guess what Tom King's trying to say with everybody on this island. He's clearly trying to say, I think, that this is such a fascist regime. There's so everything is controlled on the island, including language, even the way you speak. Imagine having a dictator who's so narcissistic that the mouse man demands that every phrase uttered from your mouth sound like you're paying homage to him, and that somehow the people on this island understand each other, but it's I don't know if that's controlled somehow, and I think that might be revealed that when they speak, they're always saying "mouse man this, mouse man that" as a way of sort of control. And I also thought it was very interesting that Wonder Woman makes a comment in this issue where she calls it even miraculous that she could understand what the girl says, and it's interesting. So Wonder Woman can obviously we know Wonder Woman can talk to animals, and Wonder Woman has an intuitive sense through her compassion and kindness. I think it's part of Wonder Woman's power that people just open up to her and she can understand people. She can also understand the young girl here who always says Mouse Man knows or variations of that, and that she can understand that. And so I think that's an interesting take. If I'm just trying to give it some credit. Um, Now, I'm happy to see that Mouse Man. We see him at the end. I'm assuming this is the Mouse Man we see at the end. He looks a little bit intimidating. At least he's muscular. He's built. He seems like he could be a potentially a powerful opponent. He's obviously intelligent. He's manipulative. He's dictatorial. And so this is still. I still feel like we're in the setup stage because we know that Etta Candy and Emily have been kidnapped, and Wonder Woman's there to rescue them. I'm still curious as to what most man's what's the plot here? What's his end game? That's the question that I still have, and hopefully we'll get some more answers in future issues. So I'm not going to say this was, you know, I'm not a big fan of the language of the island, and I think this could have been approached differently. But I mean, could we have some payoff in terms of the plot? Yes. It's just it's just not an approach I would take. But I'm not going to say it's like. I'm not going to tell people not to buy it. By all means, I mean the art alone is worth maybe checking it out. But it wasn't my cup of tea. But I'm not going to say that it won't have some payoff. We'll have to wait and see.
It's so interesting to me because you 100% are right. It's about how absolutely insanely controlling this mouse man is as a dictator, right? The fact that he's got his island isolated, the fact that the only sentences they're allowed to utter, you know, are in a way paying homage to him, right? My Mouse Man knows there's no way the guy can know everything. As far as we know, he doesn't have superpowers. He can't read people's minds. But Mouse Man knows. Mouse Man knows. That's what they like. You 100% understand why Tom King's making this choice. You just don't like it, so it ranks low. That's fascinating to me because you 100% get it. And a lot of times I feel like when you dislike what Tom King's doing in Wonder Woman, maybe it's a disconnect with maybe not agreeing with where the story is going. You 100% see where the story is going, but you just don't like it. So that's so interesting to me. And one last thing I'll point out on the art for Daniel Sampere. If you look at that final panel where Mouse Man says, he says the words that his secret police can't even say, because in second to last panel it says, "We cannot ever say," and then Mouse Man says, "Wonder Woman." Just point out, look at his teeth, like in that final panel. They even look like
a mouse
that a mouse would have. Yeah, just the two. Yeah, all you see is kind of the two front incisors, which are very prominent. So yeah, I mean, I knew you weren't going to like it, but I held out hope that based on the fact that one of the things you often complain about is Wonder Woman doesn't get it. They don't show her kicking ass enough, and she
I like
brutally
aspects of
kicks
this.
ass. And you called it out. You said, hey, you love those aspects of it, but still that wasn't enough to elevate it from number 11, 10 or 11 for you. So I'm going to need I need to sit down. I need to sit down with Tom King and we need to strategize on what type of issue he needs to do to get you to put a Wonder Woman issue in the top 5. That's what we need.
What do you mean? I put his Batman issues number 1 for the week. His Batman issues, Batman and Wonder Woman team
I'm
up.
talking about that. Yeah, but that was based on the strength of two things: Guillaume March art, who you love, and the fact that Batman was in it.
The writing was good.
Yeah. We need a just a pure Wonder Woman issue.
Well, I could talk. I mean, we got a lot of comics to review. I could give more details, but I mean, the gist of it is he can. I think that he could, if he could plant more seeds here. I think that this issue is going to turn a lot of people off. But yes, in subsequent issues, can all this be explained? And I'm inferring that obviously this is what's going on with the language and everything else. It's just not something that is, I find, it just doesn't really strike my fancy because I guess I don't feel like there's a lot of stakes here. And I could nitpick other things like everything from the baby on her back. I would rather focus on Wonder Woman. What is she doing as a mother? What is she doing how is she integrating into man's world now that she's a mother? Like they're just the choices Tom King is making in terms of what he wants to focus on, which is his prerogative. He's the writer. I get it. It's just sort of odd to me, and then we get issues like this because that the focus is so completely foreign to me. Why this would be the focus? And even Mouse Man himself, he looks like a younger version of the Sovereign, which, other than having some muscles on him, the jury's still out in terms of Mouse Man, and then even having the buck teeth. I mean, again, it's like somebody said, "Can you do a worse version than Sovereign?" And he's saying, "Hold my beer," and then here we go. This is a little better than Sovereign, but the jury's still out because the Sovereign never got any better.
So many times people complain about not enough action in Wonder Woman. You're saying I'd rather see her go
you can do an action scene. I'm talking about the overall plotting. It just is not working for me.
But my point being, okay, so what if the plot was her hanging out with the baby and her integrating into man's world, like you said? Then people would complain, oh, that's boring. How come we don't get more action in Wonder Woman? Like it's almost like Tom King's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. And my whole thing of people being turned off by this issue because of the whole Mouse Man thing, if they read last issue and they picked up this issue, then obviously they're fine with it. You have a different unique situation because we read all the DC comics, right? But I sort of feel like if you don't like this issue, then you don't like Tom King's Wonder Woman run. Then again, it goes back to what I was saying before. Then don't buy it. Don't read it. Like if you pick this up and then complain, if you go and buy this and then complain about it, I kind of feel like you don't have a leg to stand on because you're choosing to buy it. You're choosing to read it. You clearly don't like Tom
I'm
King's
sorry.
Wonder
That's
Woman
simply
run,
not
so
true.
don't read
I'm
it. Now,
sorry.
again, I'm not talking to
Yeah.
you because again, you have a unique situation.
You are
But
talking to me. You were very, very clearly talking to me, and
no,
it's
because
insulting. It's blatantly insulting. It's
I'm
you
not.
think I can easily dislike this comic and still enjoy other issues of Tom King that he's written for Wonder Woman, which I have done, which I've repeatedly said, and so you're demonstrably wrong. You're objectively, demonstrably wrong. We're outside the realm of opinion now. So I mean, I'm just
No,
saying,
I'm
like,
not
let's
saying that.
talk
What I'm
about
saying,
let's get
I'm
real
not.
for a second. Like
I'm not saying
I'm
you.
simply saying you want to get into the details. We can go into the details as to why I don't like this approach. If you like this approach, that's fine. But like somehow you don't understand why I can like another Tom King Wonder
I'm
Woman
not talking.
issue and not this one.
I'm not talking
Like
about your opinion. I'm talking about other people that, and they did the same thing with Tom King's Batman run. That where they buy it, it's almost like they're hate reading it. If you know what I'm saying, I don't understand. I don't understand that. If
oh
so,
no, fair enough.
and
But I
this is
mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm not trying to engage in deliberate hate reading. Where I mean, I think you know very well that I myself individually have. Most of what Tom King's written I've enjoyed, but I mean, I'm not going to some
and this
things just
goes.
don't strike my fancy.
Yeah, and we're talking about two different things here because it's not like you have enjoyed, for the most part, a bunch of the previous Wonder Woman runs either. Like she's one of
Yeah,
your
no,
favorite characters. You have
yeah,
certain opinions and certain things that you like to see. Nobody's done any of that in recent, and I mean I completely agree with you. Like the Michael Conrad Becky Cloonan run was problematic. Mariko Tamaki started off with like a really great first couple issues and
yeah.
then completely went off the rails. Like Wonder Woman has been getting short
Well, it's
shrift.
hit and miss. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
and one of the things that I will admit to in terms of Tom King and why I think a lot of people um, they read his stuff again. I think it's almost like they read it just so they can complain about it and they can say, no, I bought it, I read it, I have the right to complain about it. And that's what I don't get because there's so many great comics out there. And if you don't like what Tom King does, then why are you reading it? But one of the things that Tom does, and I've had this conversation with him before. And again, it's his prerogative as the writer, but this is one of the things that I think that he does that engenders people to not like his work. He's somebody that challenges himself as a writer to try to tell stories in different ways, right? It's not just straightforward, linear storytelling, right? Like go back to his very first run at DC Comics that he did on Grayson with Tim Seeley, and I think it was the Future's End or maybe the Zero issue where you can read the story backwards or forwards. They told it completely linear but backwards. And I've had the conversation with him before. He's like, yeah, I like to challenge myself and tell stories in different ways. And sometimes it works, like in that Grayson issue. And sometimes, like for most people with this, because I think that's why he's telling the story this way, using those two sentences, it doesn't work for a number of people. And there's even times it doesn't necessarily work for me. Like when I had him on and we talked about Batman Killing Time, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm telling the story, from point A to point B to point C. And then we started reading it and he jumps all over the place. There's flashbacks all the way to ancient Greece or whatever. I was like, Tom, what are you doing, man? Or I think
Yeah. Well,
his Jenny Sparks
yeah.
story, right? Like that jumped around a bit and it wasn't linear.
If I
And
was to overgeneralize, if I was to overgeneralize criticisms of Tom King, and this is an overgeneralization. It's not true in every respect, but to overgeneralize, it is generally said that if you have a character that you're really passionate about and Tom King writes it, you're statistically more likely to not like his approach because he does do his own thing. He definitely does his own thing. There are many examples. You look at Adam Strange. You look at even his Human Target series. People were so upset how he portrayed Jon Stewart. You look at even Rorschach, the way he approached the Watchmen. You looked at example after example after example where the way he portrayed Mr. Terrific in Adam Strange. Some people got really offended by that. The way he portrays the military in Wonder Woman. I mean, if you're passionate about something, Tom King's approach. If you're the least passionate you are about characters, the least connection you have to a character, Tom King does it. He can do his Tom Kinging. I've liked 90%, 85% of it. And it's gone down a little bit. I didn't like his Batman Catwoman, but guess what? When he nails it for me, I absolutely love his work. But I mean, sometimes he goes off. He's given a lot of leeway. He's given the best artists, and let's face it, he kind of gets the sales. He does. Wonder Woman, hey, it sells, or at least he's getting work. He's successful. The Supergirl movie is going to be based on his stuff. Success matters, and I think controversy matters too. I think that's what Tom King brings to the table. I don't mind. Like, look, I'm passionate about Tom King, but it goes both ways. I love his stuff with passion, and some of his stuff I don't like.
And you hate his stuff with passion.
I mean, but I
Nothing's
always
in the
say
middle.
the best writers are divisive. There are Grant Morrison stories I can't stand. There are Grant Morrison stories that I absolutely love, and that's just the way it is. But so I mean, you can't. No writer's going to hit it out of the park every day. And frankly, the best writers should have a divisive fan base a little bit, because you can't please anybody. Because everyone has their own opinion, and we have our own backgrounds, and we bring our own histories, and we see through our own pair of glasses stories, the same stories in different ways. So I mean, that's just the way it is. But that's why we love comics.
Yeah, it's so interesting because maybe Grant Morrison is my Tom King, because I generally I'll read an issue or two whenever Grant Morrison gets on something and I don't like it, and I'd stop reading it because I just don't care for his stuff. All-Star Superman being the one exception. But that's sort of my point. Like but it seems like people just keep buying, even if they don't like it, they buy Tom stuff. And maybe it's because his stuff tends to be a little more in kind of mainstream, or it tends to be completely separated, right? Like, Grant stuff nowadays, it does, you don't need, like, if you're reading something that's by Grant Morrison, it's not tied into the kind of overall plot of what the DC universe is doing. Yeah, but Tom doesn't necessarily like to do that either.
Yeah. But Tom King and Grant Morrison have one thing in common. They always do their own thing in their stories, and then it's always an open question to readership. Is this in continuity or not? Like, Wonder Woman's a different story in Batman, but they're always like, they do their own thing, and they love, they love taking obscure characters and doing what they want with them, and that's just the way it is. And to the credit of Tom King and Grant Morrison, if something becomes popular enough, an interpretation becomes popular enough, it becomes mainstream in terms of continuity. Now, it's going to be interesting to see, because of all the writers that DC has right now, I think Tom King, ironically enough, is the one that he's the one. I'm reminded of the Sesame Street. In Sesame Street, you got the four corners. It's like one of these things is not like the other. I think Tom King is 100%. One of the most different. I think his approach, narratively, is he's in his own. His writing doesn't fit in the same category as Jeremy Adams or Mark Waid or Scott Snyder. He very much is his own island. And again, that's to the credit of DC. We want to have a variety of writing, but but you're going to end up with hit and miss, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, the closest thing he's gotten to doing an event, because he's never obviously run an event, and he's self-admittedly does not like to work with others. He wants to, because again, like Rocky said, he wants to do his own thing. He has his own ideas. But yeah, he did the Heroes in Crisis story. It's closest thing to an event. DC promoted the heck out of it. And again, self-admittedly, he made the poor choice of having Wally West do what he did in that series, and that sort of ruined that series for a lot of people. And so, if anything, if Tom wants to work on his own and not be teamed up on events or what have you, it was kind of the best thing to happen to him, because now he's not going to be on events or do whatever. So anyway, I will correct one thing you said, though. I think when you were talking about Human Target, you said people didn't like the portrayal or characterization of Jon Stewart. I think you meant Guy Gardner, right?
Guy Gardner, yes. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. And obviously that one's not in continuity, because Guy Gardner gets frozen and broken into a million pieces.
Yeah. And the irony is, I want it to be in continuity.
Well, we wouldn't want that, because then maybe we wouldn't get more Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, which would be a crime. So anyway, wow, that was a lot of talk about Wonder Woman. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have New Gods, number 9, written by Ram V. Pai Par, who I've never heard of before, handles the art and color for the majority of the issues, pages 4 through 20, and then Evan Cagle, the regular series artist, handles 1 through 3. Francesco Segala colors those first 3 pages. Tom Napolitano handles the letters. This was tied for me. This is one of the ones that were tied at number 6. Um, Mostly because I really enjoyed seeing Seraphim, who is a member of the Forever People and has always been somebody, as far as I know, that's been a hero. Well, Ram V is subverting that a little bit. Seraphim's actually working for Maxwell Lord, who in turn is working for Darkseid, which makes sense. You know, Maxwell Lord, the argument could be made, is somewhat of a like a G. Gordon Godfrey type character. Um, so this does move the story forward quite a bit in terms of the little boy that has the powers. Seraphim is able to capture him and bring him to Maxwell Lord, who immediately starts brainwashing him. Um, Maxwell Lord working alongside Desaad, as I mentioned, working for Darkseid. You know, Darkseid's obviously not here, having been killed in the pages of the DC All-In Special. I say killed with, you know, quotes or what have you. But you know, they're attempting to fulfill Darkseid's wishes, as it were. But there's a ton of action in this particular issue. Again, I'm not familiar with Pipar's art, but I thought he did a reasonable job. I will say that his art it's a little, the style is very different from Evan Cagle, whereas most of the people that have come before have had something similar. But Cagle's art is so textured in comparison to Pipar's. It was a little jarring, but I think the color work worked for me, and I really enjoyed this particular issue. So can't wait to see what's happening next. It does feel like the pacing of the story is ramping up a little bit. But it's interesting because as that pacing ramps up, the story feels less epic to me and a little more localized in this particular issue. So I wonder if that's going to continue as things sort of narrow in on what Desaad and Maxwell Lord have in mind. And, you know, with the Niktari heading toward Earth, you know, what are we going to see there in terms of battle and what have you? And are we going to see more Seraphim? Is Seraphim actually working a double cross, or has he really gone over to the villain side? Like, all that remains to be seen. But again, 9 issues in to New Gods, still have more questions than answers. And I'm giving Ram V a little bit more runway than I normally give people, because this has been so good and it has been so additive to the DC universe overall. So yeah, really enjoying it. What about you, Rocky?
I just want to give a shout out to one of the commentators. I forget his name. Who leaves comments on the videos. They made a observation about this series the last time we reviewed it, and I reflected on it and more, and I kind of tend to agree, because the art on this series, it's clear that Ram V probably, you know, chose the artistic style because he wants to have it sort of like a godlike feel and give it a sort of a new age godlike feel. And but the comment was made that, you know, the Jack Kirby art may have been more appropriate. And I thought about that, and I actually think that more of a Jack Kirby style that might have been more appropriate. You know, paying a little bit more homage. You know, particularly since DC has been sort of embracing a new Silver Age approach, or at least a modern day Silver Age interpretation. I think maybe stylistically, maybe having a different style art, more akin to Jack Kirby, might have been more appropriate. In any event, just something to think about. Now, this issue, it's really interesting because this kid now, this miracle child that's supposed to apparently save the universe, or at least the Earth, from the Niktari, which is this new dark force that's going to basically, it's destroyed New Genesis, and now it's coming toward Earth to destroy the heroes. This Kamal kid is sort of like the chosen one. He's going to be the one that saves everything. Well, Seraphim, of course, sort of plants the seed in the kid that, you know, these heroes are just going to use you. And Ram V does a really good job of making it very clear that, you know, the pressures on this kid are immense, and there's a tragedy to Scott Free sort of talking to him. Scott Free is in charge of protecting him, but at the same time, they also need to use this kid as a weapon. So they're really caught between a rock and a hard place. How do you nurture a child while at the same time saying, "Hey, kid, I know you're just a kid, but we're going to have to use you as a weapon, and whether you like it or not, the burden of the saving the entire human race is on your shoulders." You can imagine the immense pressure on Kamal, because even though he's got the powers of a god, he's got the mind of a kid. And so he's really easy to manipulate. And so it's that heightens the horror, at the terror at the end when Maxwell Lord of all people, and Maxwell Lord is someone that can control Superman and one, you know, I mean, he's got immense powers, and so the fact that now he's controlling this kid is something that, well, you know, is that can be a good or a bad thing. Not saying the kid can't save the day being mind controlled by Maxwell Lord, but does Maxwell Lord have the same instincts as maybe a uh, the child would, or the best interest of humanity at heart. So it's really well done. We also meet the Forager, and it's so good because I remember collecting the series called The Bug, and I think it was drawn by Mike Allred. It was called The Bug, and it starred the Forager. The Forager is like a bug creature, and now the Bug is the Nectari are trying to destroy the world that the Foragers on, but the Foragers are like a bug race, and they're infecting some of the Nectari, and I think that, you know, that's going to be a wrench into the Nectari plans. So I kind of like the fact that Forager was just kind of a bug. He's sort of like the bug, the fly in the ointment of the Nectari plans. That the seeds of that are planted here. So I thought overall this was very well. I thought this was very well done. This came in at number 5 for me, so I quite enjoyed it.
Oh, made your top 5.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like we're starting to move on to the next chapter with, again, the Nectari invading Earth. I'm really looking forward to that. So, all right. Up next, we have Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, number 3. This starts off as mostly a silent issue from Ryan North, Mike Norton on art, Ian Herring on colors, Lucas Catoni on letters. Sort of the second dog story we have this week, and this came in my top 3 as well. Where did it rank for you?
Actually, this came in near the bottom for me. I'm still deciding, but it's probably like maybe 10th or 11th for me when I'm doing my renumbering here. And it's no disrespect. I just thought it was not a lot happened. That's all.
Boring. Yeah.
It was just not a lot happened. I'm not saying it wasn't good. And if you're into dog stories and stuff like that, yeah, sure. It's I guess it's fine. But to me, it just needed a little bit more substance to it, because I didn't feel that it didn't have like any emotional high points to me. Like, you know, Krypto interacts with a girl, and, you know, she feeds him, and you know, she's sad, she cries, and of course, I guess there are some moments, but maybe it's the lack of the McCalljanin art, which really hit so well in the Lost and Found Detective Comics story in Detective Comics 1100 that we reviewed earlier. But it was good. It just wasn't. And the competition this week was just that much, in my view, that much more entertaining for me. But it worked. But to me, it felt like just it didn't feel substantive enough to have been maybe part of this myself. But anyways, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I as I was reading this and really enjoying it, I kind of had a feeling that you were going to find, you know, not a lot to it, kind of, you know, maybe boring, but yeah, just not a lot. Because yeah, I mean, if you're not a person who really loves dogs, you're not. This is not the, you know, the story for you. And I don't know why, you know, if you don't really love dogs, if you didn't go watch the Superman movie and just fall in love with Krypto, you know, you're probably, this is not for you. Like, don't buy it. It's kind of what I would, you know, would tell people. But for me, I really did enjoy it, because this is a Krypto he's kind of learning the ropes too. And yeah, we're not privy to his thoughts, or, you know, it's not the same sort of journey that a human would take, you know, a Kryptonian would take on Earth, and learning and you know, articulating, and again, we're privy to their thoughts and emotions and what have you. You know, this is a dog, and he's learning what it means to, you know, to be on Earth and to care about people. And we know right from the first issue that Krypto was already sort of a being that was empathetic and smart and what have you. So, you know, finding this girl that's lost, and, you know, right from the start, I felt the emotion of it. She sees Krypto. Oh, you're lost too. I was saving this granola bar for later, but you seem really hungry. I'm going to share it. She obviously has a big heart. Krypto has a big heart. Seeing Krypto snuggle up and try to keep her warm. She's obviously sick. And, you know, when he wakes up and he starts dragging her out of the cave, he needs to find help for her. And clearly he's upset. He's whimpering because, you know, she's not responding and what have you. And he sort of, you know, we haven't really seen him necessarily use his powers or abilities, at least not overtly yet. But as he becomes more and more concerned for this girl, like he does this huge bark. It's a great full page spread from Mike Norton where we just see bark in, giant letters, and it scares all the birds up out of the trees or what have you. And that actually wakes the girl up. She's able to climb on his back, and he starts running to the point where then he's flying. And it's great because she's wearing a red coat, and she has her arms wrapped around his neck. And as he's running to, get her to civilization, to get her the help she needs, it almost looks like a cape that he's wearing. And he's running so fast, he's almost flying at some points. And then we get to the scene where they're in the hospital and this girl has gotten help, and, their nurse is like, oh, there's no way this dog, whatever, kind of coincidence. How would this dog know? And then Krypto leaves, and we get a scene of the ship, the experimental ship that apparently has crashed in the ocean. It's underwater, and kind of ominous. The colors, green and purple. It almost seems like obviously we're going to get some Brainiac, because we see the Brainiac symbol there, the Brainiac ship with the 3 dots on the forehead and what have you. So springtime up next. Again, for a mostly silent issue, building characterization for Krypto. I mean, this is basically an origin story for him. They could have called it, Krypto Year One, if you will, if they want to stay with that sort of classic way that DC Comics names origin stories. So I just thought, if you're a fan of Krypto, if you enjoyed him in the Superman movie, want to read more about him, this is so perfectly done by DC. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, especially, a girl and her dog. Like, I thought it was really, really well done. And Mike Norton, if you're not familiar, everybody, he has a creator-owned series called Battle Pug. So I hear what you're saying, Rocky, when it comes to Mikel Yanid drawing Bat Hound. Yeah, he's great. But Mike Norton's fantastic at drawing dogs as well. The difference being, in that story, you have Batman, very strong visual and obviously very, very strong character to help move the story. This is just Krypto. So yeah, if you're not somebody who's a big fan of Krypto, like I said, this probably won't hit for you, won't land. All right, I think we're up to the last book that we're going to talk about. This just missed my top 3. It comes in at number 4. It's Absolute Batman number 11. A lot of hype about this. The origin of Bane. A lot of talk about it online. People are really anticipating it. And then when it dropped this week, people were really excited about it. Written by Scott Snyder. We have Clay Mann as the artist on this particular issue. Haven't seen Clay Mann's art in a while. He's still just as amazing as ever. Does a fantastic job. Even Placencia on colors. Clayton Cowell handles the letters. What I loved about this, it definitely is the origin of Absolute Bane. And one of the things that I loved, what it really illustrated, during the Gotham panel at San Diego Comic-Con this last year, Scott Snyder, when he was talking about Absolute Bane, like the way he described him was, he's war personified. He's the concept of war, like walking around as a being, as a human, if you will. You could debate whether or not he's still human. Apparently the version of absolute venom that he has allows him to like manipulate his body on like a cellular level, and he can grow into like a giant blob and whatever. And it's kind of out there. It leans into body horror, which I'm not a fan of at all. But what I did love about this issue, and why I ranked it higher than I've ranked any recent issues of Absolute Batman in a long time, is because it does portray that sense of exactly what Scott was talking about, of Absolute Bane being war personified, war walking around. And there's even a line that makes reference to the main universe Bane, where this whole issue is narrated by Alfred, and he's talking about, maybe I should have been more forthcoming and more forthright before Bruce went into Arc M, because I knew he was going in to face Bane, and I knew who Bane is at his core. This is the way Bane operates, or whatever. This is what he does. And he says, this is the way he breaks your back. Now, obviously, Alfred's not speaking literally. He's speaking more metaphorically, right? Like, Bane is all about finding a target, and sort of similar to Absolute Batman in a way, being relentless in pursuing that target to the point of annihilating it, or overcoming it or, achieving his means, whatever means those might be. So, that's who Absolute Bane is. But I love that sort of tie in, that sort of nod to the main universe Bane by saying, it's the story of Bane and how he breaks your back. Again, not literally, but metaphorically. The other thing that this story does is, even though it's the origin of Bane, this issue does advance the plot of what's going on with Bruce and Arkham. Bane is able to go and capture Bruce, and we find out what they want with Absolute Batman. They have tried the powers that be, and it appears that it's going to be the Joker, who we've only seen very briefly in this series so far. But it was the Joker who met Bane on the beach of Santa Prisca once he was escaped from prison. It was the Joker who made Bane a deal and gave him his abilities or whatever. And the Joker apparently has tried to replicate that, and nobody has been able to survive the procedure. And because of that similarity that I'm talking about before, with this version of Bane is somebody who will not stop. This is this version of Batman, Absolute Batman. He's been called Batman AF, right? Batman, always advancing. So he has that in common with Bane, as I said, where he's never going to stop. And so the belief that the Joker has and that Bane has is that this Absolute Batman, this Bruce Wayne, may be the one other person who can survive the procedure. And so it's possible that the Joker will then have two soldiers that he can use to, two super soldiers that he can use to manipulate to his ends, to, do whatever it is that he's trying to do. We don't know enough about him to say what that might be at the moment. But I mean, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think that they're going to successfully be able to have Absolute Batman undergo this procedure, but it's an interesting idea. And we get sort of a drawing on the last page from Clayman of what that Batman might be. Or maybe we will get it. Maybe we will get an Absolute Batman that actually has superpowers. I sort of think we won't, because I think in Scott Snyder's mind, having a Batman that actually has superpowers is reductive in a way of the concept of Batman, to have permanent superpowers anyway. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we saw Absolute Batman lose an arm in the last issue. So is it possible that, whatever procedure that the Joker and Bane put Bruce through allows him to regrow his arm? Or is it this issue where he loses his arm?
Well, he had both arms ripped off in this issue, but it didn't really happen. None of it happened. It was just it's just Alfred telling the story of what the plan is for Bane to rip his arms off and then basically almost crush his head, and then the plan is to operate on Batman. But none of that's happened, because at the end it's revealed that it hasn't happened yet, but that's the plan. But Bane doesn't just want to beat Batman. He wants to go after his friends. So that's what I love about this issue. It reveals what the plan is. It reveals what the plan is and what they expect to do to Batman. And basically they're going to make the same offer undoubtedly to Batman that they did to Bane, but they made different decisions. Bane was offered by the Joker, look, instead of just fighting on Santa Prisca, fighting your life as a rebel fighter and having victory and then followed by defeat, followed by victory, that endless cycle. Come work for me. I'll make you powerful. Well, Bane said, okay, fine, and even kills his father in this issue and breaks his father's back. But Batman, we know Bruce Wayne has rejected that Black Mask's offer. Batman is clearly going to make. I think he's foreshadowing that Batman's not going to make that choice, and he's not going to make the choice Bane did, and that's why I love this issue so much. But sorry to intercede there. But,
no, keep going. I'm done. Let us know. Don't forget to tell us your ranking, though.
Yeah. My ranking is absolutely top 3 for me. I love this issue. I thought this issue was crucial to establish, and has done so well, the difference between Bane and Batman. That Bane is ultimately, even though he's so powerful, he's really a coward. He took the coward's way out. You know, Bane, yes, he was a prisoner. He was a rebel fighter. His father, it's generational with Bane. His father and his great grandfather fought the rebels' cause in Santa Prisca, but they were ultimately always defeated. They would win and then they get defeated. While the Joker approaches Bane after Bane finally escapes and the prison and makes him an offer, and basically Bane became basically a global terrorist and left Santa Prisca, kills his own father. Bane clearly has made a choice, but it's grounded in narcissism and self-interest. You couldn't get a different person than Batman. So Bane has the physical wherewithal to be able to withstand all kinds of procedures, as does they hint. They hint at Deathstroke. They also hint at KG Beast as being people that have undergone procedures and with varying degrees of impact and effect. And but Batman is what I love about it. He's clearly someone who's going to be making different choices. And unlike Bane, Batman has friends, and the strength of Batman isn't just the strength of Bruce Wayne, but he's friends. And I think Bane's going to find that out because Bane wears it like a badge of honor. I'm not just going to crush Batman. I'm gonna take his friends out first, so that he literally has nothing before he undergoes all these procedures, and before I crush him and rip his arms off and everything else. Um, because Alfred, what's great about the narration in this issue is Alfred's telling the tale, narrating the tale of what he expects to happen to Bruce, and he feels guilty. I should have warned you, but this world, we're doomed. It's controlled by forces that control Bane, and we're screwed. There's nothing much we can do. I'm sorry I didn't warn you, kid. All I said was good luck. But Alfred once again continues to underestimate Batman, I think. And I think that this is like, I love this so much because to me, this is really building up for me this ultimate confrontation with Bane. It isn't just going to be Batman versus Bane. It's going to be Bane versus Batman and his friends, which is just awesome because that's the way it should be. And I think Bane is going to underestimate. I hope Scott Snyder, when Bane ultimately makes his move to take out Batman's friends, which are basically Batman's rogues gallery in the mainstream universe, that should be a cool issue too. I hope there's a full issue dedicated to that. And incidentally, we haven't seen enough of Selena Kyle yet, so I hope she shows up more. But I love this issue. I think that Scott Snyder gets a little wordy, as some people like to criticize Scott Snyder, saying, well, he went a little bit too Snyderish for this issue. A lot of narration, a lot of a lot of detail, but I personally think it was needed. It gave us what we needed, and I really enjoyed it. Easy top 3 pick for me.
Well, we know next issue is all about Catwoman. Catwoman's on the cover.
Awesome.
They showed it at San Diego Comic Con, the helmet that she has, where it's like this ball with the cat ears on it. And it's like completely mirrored and reflective. She can do all sorts of stuff. So yeah, next issue is all as much as this issue was all about Bane. I think it's next issue. Pretty sure it's 12. That's all about Catwoman. So that's interesting. I love you call Bane out for being a coward. I completely agree. Like, here's a guy that worshiped the ground that his father walked on, and then he gets this offer from the Joker, and he kills his own. Like, he breaks his father's back. Doesn't say he kills him, breaks his back, but it's like, what kind of love is that? But you do sort of understand, because Scott Snyder does do a good job of explaining the origin of Bane and how tortured his existence was in that prison. We're told the prison cell fills up with water every night, and they have to learn how to fall asleep hanging onto the bars on the top of the cell and what have you. And so you can understand how he has a warped sense of values and what have you. But just like you said, what a coward's way out to sort of choose the easy way out, as opposed to staying true to the ideals that he supposedly believed in at the beginning. So it's interesting. You can understand why he makes the choices he makes, so in that way, he's a little bit sympathetic, but at the same time, he's absolutely despicable and worthy of like contempt and dislike and what have you, because of the choices that he makes. So that's a rare thing to be able to do, to create a villain that you absolutely despise, but to understand why they do it, right? Like, let's look at Amanda Waller, my favorite Amanda Waller as a comparison, right? Like, you 100% despise her for the choices that she makes, but it's not, it hasn't ever been well established why she makes those choices, other than just there's something broken in her, or she just craves power, as opposed to understanding Bane and the upbringing that he's had, so you can understand why he's chosen to take the Joker up on his offer, so that he'll never be weak again. He'll never be in that position like he was in the prison. You can understand why he does that, but you can absolutely hate him for choosing that at the same time. So yeah, fascinating. All right. Excuse me. Let's move on. That's I think that's all the single issues that are out this week. So let's move on to I shouldn't say that, right? Because there's always reprints these days. And there are a few reprints this week as well. I think for there's some reprints for the absolute editions, absolute Batmans and what have yous. But I think that's it for the most part. But anyway, in terms of collected editions, there are quite a few of those this week as well. We have Batgirl Volume 4 Mother. This is the current run that's going on that Rocky's been loving, that's focusing on the relationship between Cassandra Cain and Lady Shiva. So this is collecting the first 6 issues of that run from Tate Brombal, with art by Takeshi Miyazawa. Speaking of Tom King and his Batman run, which, to Rocky's point, very divisive, we have Volume 1 of the Omnibus hardcover that's out this week. It collects Batman Rebirth 1 and then the regular series 1 through 32, the Elmer Fudd special, Detective Comics 941 and 942, which is Night of the Monster crossover, the Flash 21 and 22, which is the Button crossover, Nightwing 5 and 6, which is also Night of the Monster crossover, and Batman Annual 1. So it's a ton of material. It's 125 pages. $125 for 984 pages. So if you are somebody that enjoyed Tom King's Batman run, or you've always wanted to read it and never have, there are people that will probably tell you, don't. Let me, not to be too spoilery, but if you don't buy this if it's because you want to see the Batman Catwoman wedding. Spoiler alert, they don't get married. So don't buy it for that reason. But if you've always wanted to check it out, and there's fantastic art, David Finch art, Mikel Janin art, Tony Daniel, like tons of fantastic artists on it. We also, at the same time that Tom King Batman run was going, we had Mariko Tamaki over on Detective Comics. She had a fantastic run dealing with Arkham Tower. 1,000 pages in this one for $125, and it collects her run, which is Detective Comics 1027 and then 134 to 1061, and then a bunch of other tie-ins. The Future State stuff's here, Batman One Bad Day Two-Face, Secret Files, Batman Black and White #5, Batman 2021, or Detective 2021 Annual #1, Secret Files Huntress. Huntress plays a prominent role. She actually gets some super abilities, which I think she still has. As far as I know, she has the ability to sort of sense when bad things are about to happen. So that's interesting. Really love that run. Gorgeous art in that as well. Also in the Compact Comics line, we have Wonder Woman Blood and Guts. This collects the New 52 Wonder Woman, the one by Brian Azzarello, with art by Cliff Chang. This is the first 12 issues in that smaller size. So you're getting 280 pages for $10. These compact comics, man, they're a smaller size. Yes. So maybe you're not getting the sort of the impactful view of the art that you might see in the larger size, but you cannot beat the price. The fact that you get 280 pages for $10. I mean, that's fantastic. We also have the latest entry into the DC Finest line. This time it's Hawkman. And this collects The Brave and the Bold, 34, 36, 42 through 44, Mystery in Space 87 through 90, The Atom #7, and then Hawkman's first solo series numbers 1 through 11. So this is stuff all from the 60s. Most of it written by the creator of Hawkman, Gardner Fox. Murphy Anderson, classic Silver Age artist, handles the art duties. That's really, really classic stuff. DC Horror Presents trade paperback, which collects the DC Horror series 1 through 4 that we had from a few months ago. If you're so inclined, that's an anthology series. Has a bunch of different stories from like Christopher Cantwell and Patrick Horvath, Francisco Francavilla, a bunch of other guys. So if you're into horror, you might want to check that out. And then Absolute DC, The New Frontier hardcover. If you have never read Darwin Cook's Absolute, or have never read his New Frontier, it's coming up. It feels like it gets mentioned almost on a daily basis now in terms of how well it encapsulates the feeling and the tone of what the DC universe should be.
Very in keeping with kind of the tone of the recent Superman movie. If you like that, you might want to check it out. And what's great about the Absolute is it's that larger size, right? The 8.5, no, I'm sorry, 11.5 by 13, which really gives you kind of the scale of the art, which, Darwin Cook doesn't put a ton of detail in his art, but it is very evocative of sort of a Silver Age or a classic feel. So, I mean, I can't recommend that highly enough. It's a little pricey because it is that oversized hardcover. It's $125, but I have several Absolute editions and I love them. We also have a Superman box set, which is 808 pages for $85. And this is 6 of Superman's greatest stories. And I'm not 100% sure, but I could have sworn I heard or read somewhere that these are the 6 stories that inspired James Gunn. But it doesn't say that in the description, in the solicitation. So I can't say that for sure. But I will say that, when you read the stories that are in here, it makes a lot of sense, right? So you have All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. You have Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. You have Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. You have Superman, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Those were the final 2 Superman issues before the Crisis event started. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore and Kurt Swan. Superman Up in the Sky by Tom King and Andy Kubert. And Superman Volume 1 Supercorps, which is the first 6 issues of the current Superman run from Joshua Williamson and Jamal Campbell. So, again, if you were somebody who was a fan of that run or that movie by James Gunn, and you want more of Superman in that tone, this would be a great book to pick up and a great gift. Never too early to pick up Christmas gifts, So, and then finally we have Milestone Universe, The Shadow Cabinet, which collects Milestone Universe, The Shadow Cabinet 1 through 4, that came to a conclusion recently, written by Joseph Illidge, with art by Atigan Ilhan and Daryl Banks. So a lot of collected editions this week. Hopefully, if you haven't already gotten out to your comic shop, you can take a look at some of these if you're so inclined. So, all right, time for our rankings. Rocky, I'll let you kick it off.
Well, my rankings, final rankings, coming in at 13, Superman Unlimited, number 4. Number 12, Wonder Woman 24. At number 11, Krypto 3. Number 10, Catwoman 78. Number 9, Titans 26. Number 8, Batman and Robin Year 1, issue 10. Coming in at number 7, Batman, World's Finest, Batman and Superman. Coming in at number 6, Justice League Red. Number 1, coming in at number 5, New Gods, issue 9. Issue 4, ranking number 4, Nightwing 129. Coming in at my top 3 are number 3, Detective Comics, issue 1100. And the 2 Absolute titles take my top 2. I quite enjoyed, coming in at number 2 was Absolute Flash number 6. I finally, Jeff Lemire, it finally, made my top 3, I think. And then in number 1, Absolute Batman number 11. I just love the establishment of this new, Bane, just finding out how just the similarities and the differences between Bane and Batman. And I think I think it works quite well. And I think I'm more excited for Absolute Batman than ever before. So what about yourself?
Yeah, I am not more excited than ever before about Absolute Batman. I did enjoy this issue much more than some recent, but I still go back to the fact that in tone, it feels the most, I don't know, maybe that and Wonder Woman. I go back and forth, but certainly Gotham City feels the same. But I'm really surprised to hear Flash all the way up at number 2. I mean, I know you enjoyed it and you said it was in your top 3, but man, number 2, which is great. I mean, that's fantastic. But yeah, I hope we get more of the Rogues, because I agree with you. I find the Rogues currently, right now, as it stands, 6 issues in, the Rogues are more interesting characters than Wally West. I don't necessarily have a problem with the mini Gorilla Grodd monkey that you do. I'm whatever about it. I don't have an opinion about it one way or the other. But yeah, Wally West has been a little, I don't want to say boring, but he hasn't been compelling. I'm not, like, I could stop reading this and I wouldn't miss not knowing. questions about. There's a ton of questions, like I mentioned when I reviewed it, a ton of questions that haven't been answered. But I would be okay with not necessarily knowing the answers to those questions in terms of Wally. I'm more curious about Barry, more curious about the questions about Barry than I am about Wally. So anyway, my rankings are, as I said, I have a few ties, so I only go up to number 11. Coming in last for me, number 11, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, number 42. At number 10, I have Titans, number 26. At number 9, Superman Unlimited, number 4. Coming in at number 8, Batman and Robin Year One, number 10. Number 7 is Catwoman, number 78. And then number 6 is the first of my two ties. I just couldn't, I kept going back and forth. New Gods, Nightwing. I could not decide which one to put at 6 and which one to put at 7. So I just put them both at, that was what I decided. I was like, you know what? I'm agonizing over this. I'm just going to put them both at 6, and that's just how it is. They just both miss out on my top 5. And then my top 5, I have number 5, Absolute Flash. Again, in best issue since the first two. Number 4, I have Absolute Batman. Number 11, which again, gorgeous art, fantastic version of Bane, great origin. Number 3, I have Wonder Woman, number 24. I just cannot say enough good things about Daniel Sampere's art. Just absolutely fantastic. And then at number 2, I have Justice League Red, number 1. Great to see those more obscure characters getting a chance to shine. And Clayton Henry just killed it on the art on that particular issue. And then I have a tie for number 1. Because again, I just couldn't decide. They both have great stories starring canines. And I couldn't decide. So I went with Detective Comics number 1100, as well as Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, number 3, tied for my number 1. I don't know how Rocky's going to do that for the graphics, but yeah. And I do want to say, in terms of Detective Comics number 1100, it's not just that Krypto story. The Greg Rucka story I thought was also great. The Mariko Tamaki story was also fantastic. The Dan Water story, if I had to rank them, I would rank that last. But it's still fantastic as well. It's still great with Bill Sienkiewicz doing some interior work. Great to see. So yeah, so that's the rankings. Again, sorry they were late, everybody. Going forward, yeah. But I do want to say, if you would rather us, if there's something that comes up and either Rocky or I can't make it and we have to delay it and have it come out later, if you prefer it coming out later so that both of us can be here, then let us know in the comments. Because what I've heard in the past is from people reaching out, hey, where's the DC Spotlight? What's going on? Or like, oh, it's usually, one of us has a work thing, or we've had to travel, or family thing comes up, or whatever. That you kind of prefer to have it on time. I mean, obviously, in an ideal world, it would be out for you late Tuesday, early Wednesday, and we'll both be here. But going forward, if you prefer us to have it out on time with only one of us here instead of both, or would you prefer us to wait until we both can do it? But then it means it might be late. Like, let us know in the comments one way or the other. Because I mean, the whole reason that we kind of shifted away from talking about every single book in excruciating detail, although I feel like we did that this issue because we're over 2 hours. But one of the reasons we did that is because, yeah, you guys said we weren't even gonna mention the others. We were only gonna talk about our top 5 and not even mention the others. And you guys did not want that. You're like, no, the reason we listen is because you guys touch on every book. So yeah, so we have endeavored to keep doing that. So yeah, we want to give you guys what you want. I mean, we wouldn't do this if you weren't tuning in every week to listen to our ramblings and our arguments about Tom King and what have you. So, and Rocky, for the record, I apologize if you took that personally. That's not what I meant at all. I was, more speaking to the people that, and I get it too. I mean, I'm not trying to call anybody out. And if you're somebody out there who is a fan of Wonder Woman and you're like, well, I'm going to I buy Wonder Woman every month because she's my favorite character. And this is the only place I can get my Wonder Woman story. And I have a run that I want to continue or whatever. And you're not enjoying it. Man, I feel for you because I bought Superman comics when Brian Bendis was buying them. And I read them and didn't like them. And even if I wasn't reviewing Superman books, I would have been buying those to keep my runs going. So I get it. But at the same time, if that's not the reason you're buying it and you don't enjoy it and you're just buying it to hate read it, man, there's better ways to use your energy. That's all I was trying to get at. So,
well, yeah, no problem. I understand that. My response to you is very simply one phrase: Mouse man knows.
that's fair. And that says it all, everybody.
However you like.
Mouse men, and my reply to that is mice have ears. So,
Exactly.
so that's going to do
There we
it
go.
for this. Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Appreciate you joining. Again, apologies it was late. Don't forget, tons of content's been coming out over on the Comic Source YouTube channel. I've had so many interviews recently, partly because you run into people at San Diego Comic-Con. Everybody wants to come on and promote their stuff, which is fantastic. I've had a lot of fun talking about so many great books lately. Also, be sure you're subscribed to the Comic Source YouTube channel, and I've been putting out shorts every day, talking about bad idea moments of the day, as well as FOC, which is on display every week. What do I need to order by Monday to be sure I don't miss out on a copy? So again, like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new stuff comes out from the Comic Source, and be sure you're subscribed to Rocky's channel as well, especially if you're listening to us audio only. The Comic Source is available on all the podcast platforms. Just go to whatever app or platform you prefer, do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. But if that's how you are experiencing the DC Spotlight every week, hey, that's great. We love it. But even so, like, maybe once in a while you want to see a particular cover or a particular moment that we're talking about, and Rocky's putting it up on the screen, go visit his channel, subscribe as well. Having those subscriptions really helps us with our reach and getting access to more publishers and what have you. So like, comment, subscribe. Again, let us know if you prefer us to wait if we're going to be late, so both of us can do it. And we really appreciate all the support, everybody. We wouldn't do this if you guys weren't tuning in. So that's going to do it for this episode. Appreciate you joining as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.